Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtaprayishva Bhatresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishne Svadhamo Bhagate Dhanamajnanadibhisaha Kalaunashtadrishamesha Ranarkothunodita. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for coming here, and thank you also for inviting me to speak a few words about Krishna consciousness. Thank you to Bhakti's Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami for walking on this earth. Thank you to Srila Prabhupada for creating this wonderful society that we have. Thank Lord Balaji for bringing us all here to the foot of the Sheshagiri and giving us this wonderful opportunity to speak about him this morning. Do we have a translator or is it happening? Okay. So I'm not the best person to speak, and so I should try to echo the words of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his end of his 10th canto commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Madgavirapi Gopala Swikuryat Kripaya Yadi Tadaivasam Payaha Pitwa Krishyayusta Priyajanaha. My dear Lord Gopal, only if you accept my words as your cows will they give sweet milk to please your pure devotees. So I thought that because we're here in Tirupati Dham, we could say a few words from Srimad Bhagavatam that are related to the Lord's advent in this place and time. Lord Venkateshwara ki jai. So in chapter 89 of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have this following discussion. I'm going to go through the verses very quickly. Shri Shula Uvacha Sarasatyastate Rajam Rishayas Satramasita Vitarka Samabhutesham Trishwadhisheshu Gomahan. Shukdev Goswami said, once, O king, as a group of sages were performing a Vedic sacrifice on the banks of the Saraswati River, a controversy arose among them as to which of the three chief deities is the supreme. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The three chief deities mentioned here are Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. Now, in this verse we see that there was a controversy amongst the learned Brahmins who had assembled on the bank of the Saraswati River. Where is the Saraswati River? One place the Saraswati River is Triveni Sangam at Prayag, but there it's coming from underground. Otherwise, it's generally understood that the Saraswati River used to flow through Punjab and maybe into Gujarat and eventually dried up. Basically, people don't know that much about these things. In Kali Yuga, all these great rivers will eventually disappear, because of the way that we're treating them at present. That's the subject matter of another lecture, but we can meditate on why Kaliya Mardana appeared in this world. If you enter the Sri Radha Govinda temple, above the doorway, you'll see Kaliya Mardana Krishna there. He enacted that pastime just to chastise the Kaliya Naga for polluting the river Yamuna. And we do the same things to all the rivers here. Anyway. So they were sitting on the bank of this Saraswati River and they had a controversy. That's not really controversial. Devotees always disagree about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Have you noticed? So we have to find a way to reconcile controversies. This is the responsible thing to do instead of fighting on the basis of our own incomplete realizations, which Krishna tells Uddhava in the 11th canto is a symptom of those who have already turned away from him. Somebody doesn't know everything, he's not perfect, but still he wants to speak more than he wants to hear. That's another primary symptom of our Ritvik friends as well. Generally, I've observed this. They don't like to hear as much as they like to speak. So it's a neophyte symptom in general. But Krishna says, because we've turned away from him, therefore we adopt this attitude. If your only introduction to Krishna consciousness is through the internet, you might not join this though. I'm lucky I didn't have internet when I joined. All kinds of garbage out there. But the responsible thing to do when there's a disagreement or a controversy about the philosophy, about the teachings, even the teachings of Srila Prabhupada for that matter, the responsible thing is to find the authoritative way of reconciling disagreements, resolving controversies. Traditionally, that's called mimamsa. How to understand an argument, how to understand the priority of arguments, how to untangle arguments. This is the subject matter of mimamsa, and we're all mimamsakas, believe it or not. Because there are two schools of mimamsa. There's Purva Mimamsa, which is karma kanda, how to understand Vedic injunctions. That's all they do. But then Uttara Mimamsa means why are those Vedic injunctions there to begin with? And a more familiar name for all of us for this Uttara Mimamsa is Vedanta. This is the darshan that was revealed to this world by our own Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva and Brahmaji and Nada Muni and Adi down the line, Madhvacharya and others, including Lord Chaitanya and his followers. So we have a responsibility to understand how to resolve controversies if they arise. So what was the controversy in this context on the bank of the Saraswati many ages ago? Trishu Adhisheshu Ko Maha. Who is the best of all the three deities? Generally, Brahma, he's out of the ring, so to speak, because nobody worships him anyway. So usually it's only between Shaivas and Vaishnavas, here in South India in particular. This is one of those controversies, but here we find a pastime very illuminating about this. So let's continue. Tasya jignasaya tevai Bhrigu brahmasutam varad tad jnapyai preshyam asu swabhagad brahmana sabham. Eager to resolve this question, O king, the sages sent Lord Brahma's son, Bhrigu, to find the answer. First he went to his father's court. Just some preliminary remarks here. It doesn't say that Bhrigu elected to take up this job. He was appointed. And sometimes you're appointed with a job that's very difficult to perform. Have you noticed? especially before a festival like this one. So this is the system since time immemorial. Devotees, they are submissive to their authorities, and they surrender, because there's always Krishna's hand in everything that happens to us. So Bhrigu, whether he elected himself or whether he was appointed by his gurus, he had this very difficult task to find out who is the supreme. But he knew how to do that, Bhrigu. So first he went to his father's court. Now I'm going to read the BBT purport. As Srila Prabhupada explains in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the plan decided upon by the sages was for Bhrigu to test which one of the predominating deities possessed the quality of goodness in full. One who is in the mode of goodness possesses such qualities as tolerance and equanimity, whereas those conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance are prone to easily lose their temper. Some people have a real problem with this. So we'll see what Bhrigu Muni did with this. Na tasmai brahvanam stotram chakre sattva pariksha. Who tested him. Tasmai chukrodha bhagavan prajvalan swaina tejasa. To test how well Lord Brahma was situated in the mode of goodness, Bhrigu failed to bow down to him or glorify him with prayers. The Lord, that would be Brahma, became angry at him, inflamed into fury by his own passion. This is why Srila Prabhupada said, if husband and wife are fighting too much, that's an indication that they're not following the regulative principles, because passion is what incites. Where does the anger come from? When desire is frustrated. So those who have more desire, they're considered to be more passionate. And unfortunately, in a passionate state, you can hardly keep from becoming angry. That's why we're all encouraged. Develop the mode of goodness. If you remain in passion and ignorance, it will be very hard for you to catch fire, so to speak. It will be very hard, because you keep getting knocked down by lust, by anger, by greed, madness, envy, illusion. All these things are symptomatic of Rajaguna and Tamaguna. But Sattva Guna manifests godly qualities, such as those that are discussed for only a few verses in the beginning of chapter 16 in Bhagavad Gita, because the majority of chapter 16 in Bhagavad Gita deals with what's most relevant to most of us, and these are the demoniac qualities. Later on we'll hear, the purports here explain that godly persons are in the mode of ignorance, and demons are in the mode of passion. And Rakshasas, they're in the mode of ignorance. Something to think about. Okay. Sa atman manyam atmajayatmana prabhu ashishama yatha vahnim swayonya varinatmabhu. Though anger to his son was now rising within his heart, Lord Brahma was able to subdue it by applying his intelligence. In the same way that fire is extinguished by its own product, water. The purport explains, Lord Brahma is sometimes affected by his contact with the mode of passion, but because he is Adi Kavi, the firstborn and foremost learned scholar in the universe, when anger begins to disturb his mind, he can control it by means of discriminating self-examination. By which means? By means of discriminating self-realization or examination. Good point to know. In this instance, he reminded himself that Bhrigu was his son. Sometimes we hear that anger, certainly anger is the product of the mode of passion, but anger itself is tamasic. It is a tamoguna thing, tamasic thing. Wrath. People become so tamasic when they're in a rage of fury. Sometimes they even kill those that they love. Crimes of passion, they say. It happens. So, Brahmaji was able to control this. How did Brahma control it? By means of intelligence. So those of us who are passionate should take note of this and understand, even if you have anger or any of these other 6 enemies, the means to control it is by using your intelligence only. That's the only means that we have until we become situated safely, relatively speaking, in the mode of goodness. And it's not easy to do that. It's a discipline. Disciple means discipline, but discipline means it's not something that you want to do, it's something you force yourself to do. Otherwise it's not a discipline. Otherwise it's nature. So those who are progressing in life, they embrace tapasya, things that are difficult. They embrace discipline because discipline elevates us. And they control their lower natures, even though those natures are there, they control them in the same way that Lord Brahma did, by intelligence. This is why Srila Prabhupada instructed us to sing every single day, Guru Mukha Padma Bhakta Chitete Korya Aiko, Aruna Koriho Mani Asha. You should take the instructions that you receive from your spiritual master's lotus mouth, make them one and the same as your heart, and don't be distracted by anything else. Because that is the only way that we're going to get this intelligence or this discrimination to control our lower natures. Otherwise, we're all monsters. We're all like Rakshasas and Asuras, factually. We experience it every day. But by the mercy of the spiritual master, we can advance beyond this. This is why he also sang Narottam Das Thakur, Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Shabma. Only place where bhakti is going to reside is in the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Alright, so Brahma is able to control himself in this way. In this verse, Shukadeva Goswami draws the analogy that Brahma's own expansion, that is to say his son, served to put out his anger, just as water, which originally evolved from the elemental fire in the primeval creation, will put out fire. Those who are learned in Srimad Bhagavatam and have studied the process of creation, you know, the product of fire is water in the process of creation. Similarly, the product of Lord Brahma, that would be Bhrigu Muni, he served as a water to put out the fire of Brahma's anger, so to speak. Very poetic. Tata Kailasamagamat Satam Devo Maheshwaraha Parirabdham Samaredha Uttaya Bhakadam Muda. Lord Shiva wasn't expecting this. Lord Shiva saw his brother and was very overjoyed. Muda means overjoyed. What happened? Bhrigu then went to Mount Kailash. There Lord Shiva stood up and happily came forward to embrace his brother. Be careful how you treat your loved ones. It's said that a word is like an arrow. In fact, in the Sanskrit language, we say gir bana. the arrow of speech. Because once you let an arrow fly, it's going to its target only. There's no way to bring it back. And if you're not careful about how you speak to anyone, but especially to your loved ones, you can hurt someone. You can actually change someone's whole trajectory in life just by words. It's very dangerous. Use your intelligence how to speak. This is the austerity of speech that Krishna mentions in chapter 17, text number 15 of Bhagavad Gita. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priyahitam chayata. You have to speak things that are beneficial, that's true, but you have to do so in a way that does not agitate. And something that will actually, the person can take advantage of it is very sweet. This is the art. It's a fine art. It's a difficult art. It's not possible for demons and rakshasas, but it is possible for the godly. So this is yet another reason why we have to try to elevate ourselves to sattva-guna. Okay, so in Vedic civilization, it's considered very important to properly greet one's family members, especially when one has not seen them for a long time. A worthy son should show respect to his father, a younger brother should honor his older brother, and the older brother should show affection to his younger brother in turn. Naichatvam asyapataga utpataga iti devashchukopaha shulam udyamnatam hantam arephe tigmalochanaha paditva padayor devi santvayam asatam gira atho jagam vaikuntham yatra devo janardanaha. Bhrigu refused Lord Shiva's embrace, telling him, "You're a deviant heretic." How do we say that in ISKCON language? Prabhu, you're bogus. So, at this, Lord Shiva became angry, and his eyes burned ferociously. Another name of Lord Shiva is Rudra. What does Rudra mean? He screams in fury. That's pretty angry. If you're howling with anger. Lord Shiva is known like that. Sometimes the Kshatriyas also, they're given very terrifying names, right? Pratapa Rudra. What's the difference between Rudra and Pratapa Rudra? Pratapa Rudra is on fire as well. Furious and blazing at the same time. The idea is that Kshatriyas have names that should strike terror into the hearts of their potential enemies. It's a psychological operation. Okay, so actually Lord Shiva was so ferocious, he raised his Trishula and was about to kill Bhrigu. Because Brahma could control it being in only Rajoguna, but Lord Shiva is representing Tamoguna. And when you become wrathful, we've already discussed, there's no controlling that. And Lord Shiva had nothing to stop him from killing his own brother. Brahma checked himself from killing his son. Shiva could not check himself from killing his brother. But then what happened? He raised his trident and was about to kill Bhrigu when goddess Devi fell at his feet and spoke some words to pacify him. Thank God for a qualified wife. Because what do we say about the women? Kirti Shrir Vakchanarina. Correct? They have this qualification. Smritir Medha Dhriti Kshama. They can forgive. Men don't forgive so easily because they have Purusha Abhiman. But women, they can forgive. And women are also very expert in speaking nicely, especially to pacify someone. Where else have we seen this happen? Back to Kaliya Mardana Lila. When they were polluting the Yamuna, the industrialists, Kaliya Kalyana. Then Krishna was ready to kill this poor creature, and he almost did. But the wives came, and because the wives were innocent devotees, they were able to pacify the Lord. And the Lord said, okay, but you can't stay here, you gotta go. He was banished, but at least he wasn't killed. Similarly here. So she spoke some words to pacify him. Bhrigu then left that place and went to Vaikuntha, where Lord Janardhan resides. Purport in Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada writes, it is said that an offense can be committed either with the body, with the mind, or by speech. Bhrigu Muni's first offense, committed toward Lord Brahma, was an offense with his mind. He just, he didn't offer respects. Second offense he committed toward Lord Shiva by insulting him, criticizing him for his unclean habits. That was an offense by speech. Again, the thing that is warned against in chapter 17, text 15. Because the quality of ignorance is prominent in Lord Shiva, when he heard Bhrigu's insult, his eyes immediately became red with anger. With uncontrollable rage, he took up his trident and prepared to kill Bhrigu Muni. At that time, Lord Shiva's wife Parvati was present. Her personality is a mixture of the three qualities, and therefore she's called Trigunamayi, Parvati Devi, glorious goddess. In this case, she saved the situation by evoking Lord Shiva's qualities of goodness. Srila Jiva Goswami remarks that the Vaikuntha planet referred to here is Shvetadvipa, because we know that Bhrigu left the place and went to Vaikuntha. So, now let's see what happens. Shayanam Shriya Utsange Padabhakshasya Tarayat Tata Uttaya Bhagavan Sahalakshmiya Satam Gatihi Swatalpad Aruruhyat Nanama Shirasamunim Asate Swagatam Brahman Nishidatrasane Kshanam Ajanatam Agatan Vaha Kshantum Athatanaha Prabhu. It means, there he went up to the Supreme Lord. This is in Vaikuntha. He went up to the Supreme Lord, who was lying with his head on the lap of his consort Shri, and kicked him on the chest. And Devishwar. The Lord then rose along with Goddess Lakshmi as a sign of respect. Coming down from his bedstead, the supreme goal of all the pure devotees bowed his head to the floor before the sage who had just kicked him. And he told him, Lord Vishnu said, "Welcome, Brahmana. Please sit in this chair and rest a while. Kindly forgive us, dear Master, for not noticing your arrival." Sometimes, I don't know about South India, but in Vrindavan, if you buy a deity of Krishna, they often have a little footprint on the chest. That is commemorating this particular pastime. Bhrigu Pada. Okay, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, at the time of this pastime, Bhrigu Muni had not yet become a pure Vaishnava. Otherwise, he would not have acted so rashly toward the Supreme Lord. Not only was Lord Vishnu taking rest, but he was lying with his head in his wife's lap. For Bhrigu to strike him in this position, and not with his hand, but with his foot, was worse than any other offense Bhrigu could have imagined. It's pretty much the worst that you can do. And this is all deliberate now. Keep it in mind. Bhrigu Muni, he's not actually trying to offend anyone, but sometimes the only way to really understand where another person is coming from is to offend them. It's not something I would recommend either. But we see this. There are many such stories like this, right? Like the Pandit who came from some foreign place into a king's court, and he was fluent in every language, so nobody could understand. Is he Tamil? Is he Kannadiga? Is he Telugu? Is he Bengali? Is he Kashmiri? Where is he coming from? Because he was fluent in all these languages. So the minister devised a plan, said, but when he's walking along, you just trip him up and see what happens. So they did that. They tripped him. When he fell on the ground and realized that somebody had tripped him, then he started cursing them in his native tongue. This is the problem with parrot-like chanting. If we chant like parrots artificially, but we don't put our heart into it, then, at the time of death, you're going to revert to whatever it was. Because Krishna is not so easy to attain. A parrot can chant, but that kind of chanting will not benefit us. We have to really, really invest in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then there's some hope that yam vapi swaram bhavam tyajantyam te kalevara. Whatever we meditate on at the time of death will be divine. So, Srila Prabhupada comments that Lord Vishnu is all merciful. He did not become angry at the activities of Bhrigu Muni because Bhrigu Muni was a great Brahmana. A Brahmana is to be excused even if he commits an offense. And Lord Vishnu set this example. Yet it is said that from the time of the incident, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi has not been very favorably disposed to the Brahmanas. And therefore, because the goddess of fortune withholds her benedictions from them, the Brahmanas are generally very poor. Punihi sahalokam nam lokapalam shabhagatam padodakena bhavatas tirthanam tirtakarinam adyaham bhavavam lakshmiya as asam ekanta bhajanam Vatsyati urasi me bhutir bhavatpada hatam hasa. Please, this is Lord Vishnu continues speaking to this Bhrigu Muni who just offended him physically. Please purify me, my realm and the realms of the universal rulers devoted to me, by giving us the water that has washed your feet. This holy water is indeed what makes all places of pilgrimage sacred. Today, my Lord, I have become the exclusive shelter of the goddess of fortune Lakshmi. She will consent to reside on my chest because your foot has rid it of all sins. How many of us actually think like this when somebody offends us? Just show of hands, please. It's incredible. It really is incredible. This Brahmin, in fact, in Bhrigu Muni, what to speak of not earning the blessings of Lakshmi Devi, even the Brahmins, to this very day, if somebody is bogus, they say he's in Bhrigu Sampradaya. But this Vishnu is so humble and tolerant and equipoised that he says, Lakshmi has consented to reside to reside on my chest because your foot has rid my chest of all sins. Have we heard the Lord say this before? Yes. Who else said this? Rishabhadeva. He says, my feet are holy because my instructions are worthwhile only because I take the water that would wash the Brahman's feet on my head. How humble the Lord is. Okay, so Shukti Goswami said, Shri Shukla Uvacha Evam Bhavani Vaikunthe Bhagustam Mandriyagira Nivritas Tarvitas Tushni Bhakti Kanto Shrulochanaha. Bhrigu felt satisfied and delighted to hear the solemn words spoken by Lord Vaikuntha. Srila Prabhupada once said, we call the Lord here Venkateshwara. Srila Prabhupada once said that actually the word Venkata, Venkata actually, he said, stands for Vaikuntha. Vaikunteshwara. I don't know if linguists will agree with that, but this is what Prabhupada said. Srila Prabhupada also said he's called Balaji because he's actually Krishna in his childhood form. Srila Prabhupada said these things. So, overwhelmed with devotional ecstasy, he remained silent, his eyes brimming with tears. Report, Bhrigu could not offer the Lord any words of praise because his throat was choking with tears of ecstasy. How would you feel if you offend someone, especially the Supreme Lord, in such a gross manner, and this is how he treats you for it? You would feel, you would look for a crack in the floor to disappear into. In the opinion of Srila Vishnu Chakravarti, the sage could not be condemned for all of his offensive behavior, since his role in this transcendental pastime was arranged by the personality of God. Good saying. Punasya satrama varajya muninam brahmavadinam swanbhutam sheshena rajan Bhrigura varnayat. O King, Bhrigu then returned to the sacrificial arena of the wise Vedic authorities and described his entire experience to them. You can imagine what they thought of this. Can you? Imagine. Alright, we'll finish up now. Tam nishanya kamunayo vesmita amrita samshayaha bhuyam sam shadathura vishram yata shantiryato bhayam dharma sakshatyato jnana vairapyam chataranvitam aishwaryam chashvada yasma yashashchatma malapaham muninam yastadandana Shantanam samachetasam akinchananam sadhunam Yamahu paramam gatim sattvam yasya priyam murtir Brahmanas twishtadevataha bhajantya nyanashishah shanta Yamva nipuna buddhayah. Amazed upon hearing Bhrigu's account, the sages were freed from all doubts and became convinced that Vishnu is the greatest Lord. Venkateshwara ki. We all know that because of this incident, Lakshmi Devi came here to Lord Varahadeva's place in Tirumala. And because Lakshmi left home, what is Vishnu supposed to do? He came searching for her, and he came and took birth in a similar place. We went there yesterday, Gokula Devi Temple on top of a nearby hill. Very beautiful deity, Gokula Devi, the Lord's mother. So, and then the rest is history. What happened after he married Padmavati, fell in love with him, and the Gokula Devi arranged with the Kashraja, and they got married over there in that Kalyana Venkateshwara temple, also is very close to here. And then after 6 months of newlywed bliss, then they moved upstairs to Tirumala, and there they've been residing ever since. But my host told me that I asked him, why does Padmavati Ammavari stay downstairs? And he said, family fight. I don't know if my intelligence can enter into that. This is Swakiya Madhurya Bhava, a little bit beyond my pay grade, but this is the history. So the sages were amazed upon hearing all of this, and they were convinced that Vishnu was the Lord. From him come peace, fearlessness, the essential principles of religion, detachment with knowledge, the eightfold powers of mystic yoga, and his glorification, which cleanses the mind of all impurities. He is known as the supreme destination for those who are peaceful and equipoise, the selfless, wise saints who have given up all violence. His most dear form is that of pure goodness, and the Brahmanas who are his worshipable deities, persons of keen intellect who have attained spiritual peace, worship him. without selfish motives. Lord Venkateshwara ki jai. The Lord expands into three kinds of manifest beings, the Rakshasas, demons, and demigods, all of whom are created by the Lord's material energy and conditioned by her modes. But among these three modes, it is the mode of goodness which is the means of attaining life's final success. Trividha kritayastasya rakshasa asurasuraha gurninya mayaya srishtaha sattvam tattirtha sadhanam. We described in the beginning our only means of elevation of the instructions of the spiritual master in the initial stages of bhakti. What do those instructions do? They elevate us to the mode of sattva guna. And from sattva guna we can understand things higher than that. Okay, I think it's time to stop now. Oh, 1 minute left. I'm not going to ask for questions, I'm just going to finish this passage. There's only 2 more verses. Shishuka uvacha tam sarasvata vipra nranam samshayanataye purushasya pradam bhoja sevaya tadgatim gataha. Shukdev Goswami said the learned Brahmanas living along the river Saraswati came to this conclusion in order to dispel the doubts of all people. Thereafter, they rendered devotional service to the Supreme Lord's lotus feet and attained his abode. Shri Sutta Uvacha is a sutta now. Before we heard from Shuka, is a sutta. Ityetam nitanayasya padmagandha piyusham bhavabhayabhit parasya pumsaha sushlokam shravana potaihi pibatya bhikshnam panthodvabhramana parishramam jahati. Sri Sutta Goswami said, thus did this fragrant nectar flow from the lotus mouth of Shukdev Goswami, the son of the sage Vyasadeva. This wonderful glorification of the Supreme Person destroys all fear of material existence. A traveler who constantly drinks this nectar through his ear holes will forget the fatigue brought on by wandering along the paths of worldly life. Similarly, anybody who's planning to walk up the hill, you can remember this narration and it will remove all of your fatigue. Okay, so we will stop here. All glories to Shiva Prabhupada.